Welcome to the delayed Lou TV show tonight. We're going no overlay for me. Fantasy Elite is our sponsor. But I feel like Andrew now, and I'm just like a wreck right now. My computer was being a real jackwagon, and so we're finally here. We're finally doing it. Zach is back, ready to do this. I needed you for that head chopper head-to-head draft I had, and you failed me, Zach.
I'm sorry, man. Had to take care of.
Thankfully, we chatted a little bit, but my Kansas State players, who I was persuaded to use by the smartest man in the building, Andrew, really screwed me over. Dude, I was thinking about it. If I would have gone just Nick Marshall instead of Jake Waters with the second pick, I would have like 15 more. I'd be like 25 points closer.
Like, I know this sounds easy to say in hindsight, but like I've said it before on the show, like I'm not a big Jake Waters fan. Like I never really liked him. Like Andrew's always loved him, and I'm like, okay, man, he's gonna have to show it to me. And he's great in other games, but I said against Auburn, he's gonna have to really work. So
I don't know. I think looking back on it, that was a dumb move.
it's like, to me, we'll talk about it here in a minute. Like, you know what? I'll save it for when we get there. You know my other quarterback I don't like, but we'll talk about it in a minute.
Trevor Knight? Is it Trevor Knight?
Yes, it's Trevor Knight.
All right, so we have 3 slates to go through, and I don't want to be here all night just because it's been one hell of the last 48 hours for me. So, which I always feel like I come on here and I'm just like, this has been one heck of a day. But for real, we're going to just crush these. We're not going to dilly-daddle here, all right, everybody that's watching. Thank you for being patient with us, and me and my computer especially. Let's get into it. The 9:20 a.m. games, like the UVA, BYU, Texas A&M, SMU, UNC, ECU, and Florida, Alabama. Some interesting games here. Let's start with this UVA, BYU. Taysom Hill's $34,000. That's a lot of money. Do you think there's any chance Taysom Hill gets his value for $34,000 against UVA?
Yeah, there's a chance, but there's a lot of great quarterbacks on this slate that I'm looking at right now, and I would, if that's the first save, you have the second pick in this head-to-head, and he takes Taysom Hill, I think Shane Carden for $7,000 less would be just as good. And I wouldn't have said that last week. You know, I know it hurts, but Shane Carden really surprised me last week against Virginia Tech. I did not see that out of him. Like, I sat him in all of my seasonal leagues that I have him in because I said, well, if there's a defense this year that's going to stop him, it's going to be Virginia Tech. And he came out and played very well. So, yeah, I'd almost say I'd go, if my 2 quarterbacks, I'd go Blake Sims and Shane Carden and just load up on those 2 guys.
Dude, you're not going to – I mean, I like Carden a lot, obviously. But the thing was that Virginia Tech defense was so terrible in the first quarter and then dominant the rest of the way. I think I like Marquise Williams as my number 1 quarterback in this slate.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I can't argue with that.
I mean, I think Carden and Williams are just going to go back and forth. Like, if you could find any possible way to put both of them on your squad, that seems killer to me because I just think this goes back and forth and back and forth. It's going to be an exciting game to watch, one that I won't be able to watch just because that's just how my life is. I don't get to watch football anymore on Saturdays.
Also, like, I think if I'm going to spend the money, I'm going to get Kenny Hill instead of Taysom Hill.
Yeah, Kenny Hill, man. The thing with Texas A&M is they really don't run it in. I feel like they just never score rushing touchdowns.
Well, and SMU is so bad. Like,
they're so bad.
They're like, you know how Tampa Bay was last night against the Falcons? Like, they're that bad when it comes to college football.
When it comes to what they do. Yeah, I think, today this might be a better way to go just go like quarterback by positions. Yeah, I think Kenny Hill is probably the better play than Taysom Hill. You know, UVA slowed down Brett Hundley. That was at home, though, and this is really UVA's first road game. UVA is a better team this year, but I think the fact that his price is $34,000, I don't think you can do it, especially with the way Kenny Hill is going to just murder SMU.
Yeah.
Baylor
did that at halftime. Kenny Hill will probably have 4 touchdowns in the first half.
Yeah, I think this could be like a lock for 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, like Taysom Hill, he's really good, but now that Jamal Williams is back, they've looked like they've wanted to establish him to take some of the load off Taysom Hill. You know, because if Taysom Hill's running it so much, he ran it so much last year, took a lot of punishment. Maybe they're not dialing it back by a whole lot, but they've got a great athlete in Jamal Williams. I think they're trying to use him a little more.
Yeah, Jamal Williams has gotten a lot of carries since he's been back from suspension and been very good. He's been very, very good. So I don't see why. I feel like they are just going to start doing this, like getting Jamal Williams involved because they want to see if they can take a run at going undefeated. And the only way they do that is if Taysom Hill is like, not the fact that he's playing every game, the fact that he's like fresh and really close to 100%. Because when he's on, he's really, really good. I mean, he's the reason why he's going to be beating teams if they do that. You know, if they go 10 or 12 and 0, 13 or whatever it is.
Right.
Other quarterbacks, Blake Sims against Florida scares me, man, for 22K. And I'll say it because, I mean, in hindsight, it's going to be hard to pick because what other quarterbacks would you go with?
Right.
But I think the fact that Florida has their stud corner against Amari Cooper, then you have a bunch of receivers that are kind of unknown/unproven. It makes me worry about Blake Sims. Now, if this was like week 1 or week 2, I would have no way I'd touch Blake Sims. I feel a little bit more confident with him because he's had some good games, even if it is against bad teams. I just don't know. Before getting into these other quarterbacks, I just don't know at this price is appropriate for him this week.
Oh, here, let me say this though. Like, let me ask you: have you watched Blake Sims play this year?
Dude, I haven't really had a good chance to watch him other than, every now and then I'll watch some YouTube videos of games and stuff, and I've seen a little bit of them, but not really a whole lot to get it.
I've watched pretty much all of his starts that he's had. Was it 3? And they made it a point of emphasis to get the ball in Amari Cooper's hands. And I don't think Blake Sims has thrown more than 5 passes downfield all season. Like, he's thrown them behind the line of scrimmage or maybe like a short little slant, and the Amari Cooper with the ball in his hands runs it for 30, 40 yards. And I don't think there's a corner in college football that can match up with him, Amari Cooper.
Really? You don't think Hargraves from Florida can match up with him?
No, man. I think that Lane Kiffin knows he has the best, if not one of the best, the best receiver in college football on his team, and he's making it a point to get him the ball. I mean, it's evident. Like, he's got 30 balls?
Yeah, he's got. I mean, how many times did we see last year Amari Cooper just not have any production?
Right. He's got 33 catches in 3 games.
He might have had 33 catches in the first 8 games last year.
My point. Like, he's caught his worst game was last week. Actually, I guess you could say West Virginia, but he still caught 12 balls for 130 yards in that game. He got 8 for 135 and a touchdown against Southern Miss last week. So, I mean, I think if nothing else, in Elite, he gets a point per reception.
I'll say this. With what you've seen, the short passing, that might take away the Hargraves' ability to shut down a corner because there is no shutting down a guy when it's a slant or a slant a little bit, but screens, short passes, you really limit how much
he's not covering at that point.
You're not really covering, and if it's PPR, the way they've been feeding him, I can see that, but it just comes down to if you think they're going to score through the air or not against Florida.
I think they're going to have to. I think they'll run it more in this game than they have the first 3 weeks because they haven't really had to, and they're trying to work out the quarterbacks. But the way it seems, I haven't really read anything about it. Blake Sims seems to be their guy. I mean, I don't know if that's confirmed as he's the number 1 or not, but. The way I look at it, he's played well every time they've thrown him out there, and I don't think he's done anything to lose that job. Like Coker, I noticed they put Coker in, and he throws it downfield more so than Sims does, but I think that's just his skill set opposed to Blake Sims. Blake Sims, if the slant's not there, he can tuck it and run it.
He does have the dual threat capabilities. Looking at some of these other quarterbacks, Driscoll and Lambert and Bertram are the only other starters, correct?
Bertram, I don't think starting.
Is he not starting? Who is this? I mean, does anybody know who's starting for SMU these days?
Matt Davis might be starting now.
I mean,
Yeah,
would you take a
Bertram's
chance?
out for the season.
He is. All right. So, would you take a chance on Matt Davis at 5K?
5K, I guess you could consider it like you're punting the other quarterback position and just maybe hope for the best. Just maybe he gets you a touchdown. But, which may not be a terrible idea if you take Kenny Hill, and then you can load up on your running back.
All his receivers.
Right. I mean, that may not be a bad strategy this week. I mean, Driscoll. I think Driscoll could be in for a big day if they give him time to throw.
I think you could go Matt Davis, but you'd also have to. I mean, you'd have to have guys like Kenny Hill or Taysom Hill on your team.
Yeah.
One or the other. And then I also think I'd rather have him than UVA's quarterback, 100%.
Oh yeah.
I think the only other really option there is Driscoll. He's played well really the whole time. He's got a star receiver in Demarcus Robinson,
who's 5K by the way.
Who is 5K, which is pretty much first pick level. Do you think that there's players returning on the defensive starting staff there that are coming back for Bama, correct?
Yeah. I look, I've watched Alabama, and if they have a weakness on that defense, it's those corners. They've looked very vulnerable this year. I know they didn't have everybody in the West Virginia game, but do we really think West Virginia is really that good?
Before last week, I think everybody would say Clint Trickett was just playing really well due to bad teams, and he played really well against Maryland.
Are they good enough? Like they hung in there with Alabama. I mean, they made Alabama work for it.
I don't think there's any way that people that Bama should ever have let that happen against West Virginia. The old Bamas, at least.
Right. I think they have a weakness in that secondary, and teams know it.
Yeah. So I like Driscoll, man. I like Driscoll more than Sims. He's cheaper.
No, I guess now the more I talk about it, I don't disagree, I guess.
And I think Sims can be all right, and I just think I like Driscoll against Bama's defense more than Sims against Florida's defense, which is odd, but especially the way they gave up points to Kentucky.
Yeah.
But
I just think that like they've got some weapons on the outside, and I'm not sure Bama can cover them.
All right, so if you're going to be drafting quarterbacks in this slate, can you kind of rank which ones you would go with, including price, including strategy? I know we haven't gone through all the different positions, but including some strategy.
I think I like Kenny Hill. I like him a lot more than Taysom Hill. We kind of said that earlier. I like Carden. Marquise Williams, I haven't really watched enough of him to really say if I really like him or not.
Man, he can ball.
I know.
We haven't talked about Marquise, so let me drop in some Marquise knowledge. The thing with Marquise Williams is that UNC doesn't have like a running back that's a goal line back because they don't need it. They have Marquise Williams.
Right.
Anytime inside the 10, they're doing one of three things. Okay, they're going to run it with Marquise Williams, they're going to throw it with Marquise Williams, or they're going to do a reverse pass and Marquise Williams is catching the touchdown.
So is that Trubisky guy not even a factor now?
Trubisky, I'm pretty positive, has been named the backup. They've named Williams as the starter. They need to make sure they have one guy for this game because, if they put in a guy and he has two bad series, they could be out of it. They might not be able to keep up with East Carolina. I think East Carolina wins. I just don't know if there's any way they stop East Carolina. I think they're like 2.5-point underdogs right now.
Yeah.
But, that's what they do. They give it to Marquise Williams and they let him throw it or they run it or he catches it, which is obnoxious. Quinshaw Davis could have a touchdown pass tomorrow. Like, that guy has probably 4 or 5 in his career just because of Williams in the last year and a half. And with that 25K, I think he's a lock for 3 touchdowns. A lock for 3 touchdowns. At 25K, we said Kenny Hill was a lock for 4 touchdowns, we felt. I think, so to go on, to finish your rankings, that being said about Williams, where would you rank him at in terms of Carden and Driscoll?
I think right where he's at, like just on this board. If you took Taysom Hill off of there, like ignore him, I think you go in those three to me. I like Hill, Carden, Williams.
Okay, and then you think Driscoll more than Sims?
Yeah, like I just feel like Bama's been holding out on us, man. Like everything I've seen makes me want to say, okay, Florida's going to light them up on the passing game. I don't know. I guess we've just seen Bama shut teams down so much recently that it's hard to believe that a team's going to light them up through the air.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I mean, not to be. I mean, when was the last time Bama's defense was like shut down, or anybody really in the SEC was shut down? Was that when they beat LSU in the championship years ago?
I mean, yeah. I mean that's really.
Since then, it's been pretty open in terms of defensive and tons of points.
Yeah, I mean, you look at last year. I think it turned, no pun intended, it turned the tide on Alabama, and Auburn ran through them. Like they had like 300 yards rushing on Alabama. That's unheard of. And then in the bowl game, Oklahoma did whatever they wanted to.
They made Trevor Knight look really good.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's kind of carried over into this year. Yeah. If you watch these three games, I mean, when is the last time you said, okay, if Alabama was favored by 42 points against Southern Miss, you'd take that. You would say, okay, they're going to beat them by that. And then they give up 2 touchdowns. So it's like, or give up however many points it was. So normally they shut them out. Like, to me, that they've got holes in that defense.
All right, so to me, I think we'll get to the running backs here. Actually, we're going to go receivers here after this. I like Williams the most. Then I roll Kenny Hill because of how much of a consistent lock he is. Then I like Carden, and then really it's a toss-up between Driscoll and Sims. I think you go with your gut. I would lean a little bit.
I think if you like them both equally, you got to go Driscoll because he's $3K cheaper.
Yeah, I think I like Driscoll more than Sims, but honestly, I'm not super confident in either pick. Like, if I decided to punt it with Matt Davis because I got Kenny Hill, I wouldn't be upset about it because I'm not too super excited about those last two just because of how they're pricing. To move on to receivers, we've talked about how great Amari Cooper is. These PPR.
Oh, breaking news here. Colney Castle will start quarterback for SMU.
Who's this?
Colney Castle.
Colney Castle. He's 5K, Kolney Castle. Any relation to Matt Castle?
I don't have a clue.
Do you have the breaking news? Which sources close to you have disclosed this information, by the way?
Dallas Morning News.
Dallas Morning News. All right, good. So Colney Castle, quarterback, not Matt Davis, would be the punt option there. Moving on to the receivers, Amari Cooper, like I said, was the PPR guy. 30-plus catches already. The thing with Bama is he is their guy that they go to in the air. You have a couple other guys that are solid players, but really it's all Amari Cooper as compared to Texas A&M, who it's a mixture of 3 to 4 guys. Speedy Noel's out, so it's really going to be between 3 guys this week for Texas A&M. Do you like Cooper for 21K?
Depends on who I got as my quarterback. What I did with my quarterback situation. If I went Kenny Hill and then took Castle, I think, I'm taking Cooper. But
so if you didn't save any money, you would think you kind of have to fade Cooper.
Yeah, you'd have to. I mean, I don't think you can afford to say if you went, let's say you went Kenny Hill and Jeff Driscoll. All right, let's say you put Blake Sims because you would try to go with Amari Cooper there too. You'd have no money.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have about 30K for, 6 guys?
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to have all 5K guys. You can't do it. So, like, to me, it depends. Like, if you went Kenny Hill and Castle, Cooper, I think you go Cooper. And then try to load up with maybe Seals Jones as your other big-time receiver, and then try to go DeMarcus Robinson.
All right. You bring up Seals Jones' name here. I want to hear your thoughts on this. I think with Speedy Noel being out, I know that he's not the same receiver as Seals Jones. I think that puts a lot more targets in Seals Jones' hands. I know Malcolm Kennedy, I guess, is kind of the number 1 with Seals Jones being like 1B. But if you look at the numbers, Kennedy had that huge game against South Carolina and then hasn't really done a whole lot. I mean, compare. I mean, he's done the same as everybody else has since. So do you think that theory kind of holds true, or do you think Seals Jones is really just guaranteed for his 4 catches, 60 yards, 1 touchdown?
I think I like Seals Jones. He's got a touchdown in every game. I mean,
he's a lock for 4 to 5 catches, 50 to 60 yards, and a touchdown. It seems like.
Yeah, I mean, what's Kennedy priced at? I like Seals Jones. Like, other than that first game, Kennedy's been okay. I mean, nothing fantastic, you know. So I think I like Seals Jones, especially he's at the price. He's cheaper. I mean, not much, $2K, well, I guess almost $3. But yeah, I like Seals Jones of those two.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him. I wrote him up on my article. Other A&M receivers, Josh Reynolds. Do we think he gets more the targets? I guess with Speedy Noel out, you think he becomes the number 3, or is there a guy I'm missing here?
I think that's a good assumption. But again, he's not priced much better than Seals Jones. So
yeah, I think you would have to almost, I don't want to say avoid Josh Reynolds. I think you can pay up the 14, 15K for Malcolm Kennedy and be okay with it.
Right.
In terms of what you're going to get, where you can think, I think Seals Jones is the guy you would get the most value out of, and I think Josh Reynolds is just too high. I mean, sure, he could have 2 touchdowns and 100 yards, but I think that the chances are better with these other 2 guys, and I think that warrants their price a little bit better there.
But let me say this, though. They are playing SMU, and if you decide, you know what, I don't want to take one of these top guys, you can probably try to drop down, and maybe Josh Reynolds would be a very good play because of the competition they are playing, and they might play, and say if he wasn't playing in the first half, he might play in, you know, deeper into the game because he'd get him more reps.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Like, you think about, like, Edward Pope. He's on their one of their top receivers, but, you know, it's tough because they share the ball around so much that is Seals Jones going to get you that many more points than, say, Pope when it's all said and done?
Dude, I think Seals Jones could have a big game.
He could. I mean, like, Malcolm Kennedy could have a big game. You go look at their receivers. You take Speedy Noel out. There's still 4 or 5 guys there that can contribute on any given week.
Yeah, Edward Pope at 5K, I like that you mentioned his name because I completely forgot about him for some reason. I think that's a great pick. I think he could do a whole lot worse than that. I mean, for 5K, a guy that's going to get guaranteed reps, he's a 4th receiver, but it's not a big deal. He's going to have Kyle Allen throwing to him. They're going to be up big, okay? They're going to be up like 42 to 3.
If SMU scores more than 10 points, I will be shocked.
Okay, so they're going to be up by a ton. And then they're not going to just run every single play in the second half. Pope's going to get some action there, and 5 catches, 50 yards, boom.
Touchdown.
Yeah, you can snag a touchdown there because they're going to play. They're going to want to get Kyle Allen the reps that are like legitimate reps because it's about to be SEC big time, that conference schedule. They got to make sure they're ready because honestly, they're looking at it surprised me. They're looking at like a top 4 national championship look with the way that they've looked offensively.
Yeah.
There's a ton of points going to be thrown around in this East Carolina UNC game, and the way I'll describe it is this. I think Marquise Williams is the guy to have for UNC. I don't think there's any running backs to have. I think Quinshad Davis is the receiver if you want one, but it's somewhat, to me, that's kind of a boom or bust to a certain extent. But I think all the receivers you want is on the ECU side because Shane Carden throws it so well and does it so much.
And so to those guys, like Isaiah Jones and Justin Hardy are going to get their catches. I don't care who they're playing.
Yeah, and they're the same thing as UNC. Their running back situation is not very conducive, to goal line runs and carries and stuff like that for those guys. So Justin Hardy for me is the top guy you got to have. I'd rather have. He's probably my number 1 receiver on the board besides Seals Jones. I think I'm really a big fan of him. But I think Justin Hardy would be right there. I think he's the safer play in terms of like a higher ceiling. I think Hardy's the guy I want. He's my number 1 receiver. Would you want him more than Seals Jones, you think?
What's the pricing? I'm sorry, I was doing a little research.
No, you're good. It's 14.5K for Hardy compared to 12.2.
I think I still like Hardy though. Like I just think that the volume of targets that Hardy gets as opposed to Seals Jones is more beneficial. Like if Seals Jones is getting 4, 5, 6 catches a game, somewhere in that range, Hardy's probably gonna get 7, 8, or 9.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna tweet about it so it's in print. It's documented. I think Seals Jones goes for a huge game, but in the format that Fantasy Elite is,
right. Exactly.
you're taking a risk. That to me, Seals Jones. If you're playing any GPP tomorrow, and honestly in 50-50s, you can roll Seals Jones because he's just a lock like we've talked about. But I think for sure you have to roll him in a GPP. But I think Justin Hardy in this format is the perfect receiver just because of the game, the flow of this game, the tempo. Everything is going to be pushed towards scoring a lot of points.
Let me ask you this real quick. There's a bunch of receivers that I see on this slate for 5K. And if you take, say, 3 of those guys at 5K and then try to just get Amari Cooper, I think that wouldn't be a bad idea.
No,
here's why. Here's my thinking on it. You got Cam Worthy from ECU. I know he had a breakout game against Virginia Tech, but I think he's their third option. And if they throw it a ton, you're gonna get targets. And Demarcus Robinson is at 5K as well.
Yep.
And you could go with any of those Texas A&M receivers that aren't Seals Jones or Kennedy. You know what I mean? Like, there's value in a lot of these receivers that, like we said, Texas A&M is going to be playing with their, Kyle Allen's going to be playing the second half, and they're going to let him throw.
They're going to have to let him throw.
I
think if you save up if you use those 5K guys, I think you save up for not a guy like Amari Cooper is my thing.
Okay.
I think you save up and use it for, Hardy and then some quarterbacks.
Okay, that's a strategy I thought of because there's a lot of value out there in the wide receiver.
There's 3 legitimate. I mean, for one, Demarcus Robinson's the clear-cut 5K guy to have.
Yeah.
And Worthy is an option, a great option. I'm glad you pointed him out. Even if he's the 4th receiver for East Carolina, that's still a legitimate pick because they don't throw it or they don't run it all that much. Breon Allen, a guy that you loved.
Yeah.
Who honestly is a guy that I was looking at this week. I was like, man, I just wish he was guaranteed 15 touches because that flow is going to be perfect for that conducive scoring nature. I would personally, if I was to go 3 of those 5K guys, I would go Shane Carden and Marquise Williams, or obviously Kenny Hill and one of those other 2, and try and work it that way. That's how I would try to do it.
Right.
But I mean, you could certainly go Amari Cooper. You could try to go the 5K guys, and all of a sudden, the quarterbacks that you wanted are gone, and you don't have an option. And in that case, Amari Cooper is a safe pick for 21K. If you feel like you're going to get your points there, you don't have to worry about it.
Let's roll running backs. Let's do this here.
Real quick. Is DeAndre White out or in for tomorrow's game?
He's questionable for tomorrow. That means to me that means a no-go.
He's a no-go. In terms of lineups, he's a no-go.
Yeah, questionable. I don't mess with them.
All right, running backs in this. You got some underpriced guys. Yeldon's been lower than. You got Drake there at 11, Henry at 9. I mean, let's just do this. Which 3 to 4 guys are you looking at here with their prices right in front of us?
I like Kelvin Taylor for Florida at 7,400. I mean, Alabama's good against the run, but Florida's been very good running the ball too. At 7K is not really that big of a risk. Because Matt Jones, he's at 15K, but I think Taylor's been very solid.
But Jones gets more of the carries, though, don't you?
I mean,
he had 29 carries last game, so if you think they're going to run it, would you want both, or would you just want the one?
No, I wouldn't want them both. Because you're putting a lot of faith in Florida being able to
run it. That's a lot of chips.
Control the game on the ground, especially if we just talk Driscoll. The weakness in Alabama's defense is their secondary, but I think that they're going to have to be able to run the ball, or they're just going to drop, 7, 8 guys into coverage and make Florida throw it, and that's when they'll get in trouble.
All right.
But okay, I guess
is there any running back for Alabama that you want?
Ooh, that's tough. It really is tough. I don't know if I talked about this pre-show or if it was the beginning of this show, but I feel like they're saving Derrick Henry, like for the big SEC games. They're really saving the running game. Like they haven't really run the ball like we've seen Alabama in years past. Like I feel like they've been getting these quarterbacks reps, to see kind of who they were going to start. And I think now that they're going to be in a game where, they're going to be tested a little more, I think they're going to run early.
Yep.
And like Derrick Henry hasn't done a whole lot, which has been disappointing for many people. But I could see this being that week where Derrick Henry takes off.
Yeah, I definitely do not want TJ Yeldon. There's been questions about his hamstring, and I do not like, especially in college, I do not want to mess with anybody in their hamstring for a running back. I think Henry is the guy I'd want of any of them. I would not want Drake for almost $12K. That's too much for a third running back that honestly has gotten a ton of fantasy points really on just touchdowns alone. I think it was something like 5 of his last 20 touches have been touchdowns. Ridiculous. I mean, I like Kenyon Drake on DraftKings, something like that where he's 3,100 or maybe on Fantasy Aces or maybe these other sites where he's super low price.
Right.
But I can't do it for 12K on Fantasy Elite. This is tough, man. I like Jamal Williams at almost 13K. I think that it's not going to be, like we talked about, it's not going to be the Taysom Hill show nonstop, and he can snag a touchdown there. He's done it before. And I think Kevin Parks is untouchable at that price.
Yeah.
I just think that he was a big talent for them last year and hasn't done anything since.
They're going to have to throw the ball on BYU if they want
to. And that's not going to work. That's
at BYU, no way.
Breon Allen, 8K. Do you think that's low enough to warrant a spot on your roster maybe towards the end?
No. Yeah, I think so. I think that's tough though. I would probably, if I'm sitting there with, 9, 10K left in my salary cap there, I might take a chance on him.
All right.
Because you got to remember the catches that he's going to get to count a whole point. I always, when I'm building a team, I look at these guys that take these big home run hitter guys, and I'm like, well, he's going to catch 4 passes. I want the guy that's going to catch me 10 passes.
Yeah.
I don't really care how far they go. If he catches the ball, it's a point.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to this next slate. Would you rather... I think this 9:20 p.m. slate looks a whole lot better than the prime slate, don't you, in terms of fantasy value, fantasy points, fantasy fun?
Yeah.
Got your Boise game in it, right? So.
Does it? Oh, my goodness. It does, doesn't it?
It does. I think here's what we do. I think we talk this slate up, and then at the end, not the end, the last maybe 10, 15 minutes, we can go real briefly, quickly through it. Because I think this one, the second slate here, Oregon, Washington State, Cal, Arizona, San Diego State at Oregon State, and Lafayette at Boise State. That's the fun one. You got the late games. Boise State's the last one. That's the one where you're sweating. I think this is going to be a great slate. Quarterbacks, Marcus Mariota, Connor Halliday, 30K-ish each. Mariota has to be way over Halliday, correct?
Yeah. Well, I say that, and last year, I had somebody tweet me earlier this week about Halliday's stats against Oregon last year. At Oregon, he threw 80-something times last year.
89 times.
Yeah, and for almost 500 yards. Am I wrong?
I think it was over 500 yards, yeah.
500 yards,
4 interceptions.
Threw 4 picks. But, I don't know if I would say he's just way over Halliday, but Halliday really hasn't done any. He's had some stinker performances this year.
I just don't think you can go Halliday against. I don't think you can bank on the fact that he's going to throw more than 60 times. That was that weird game where the coach on Oregon got pissed, and they're getting smoked. Washington State is, and they just keep throwing it. There's just no way that he gets above 65 pass attempts.
Doesn't get above over-unders at 60,
which is obnoxious, by the way. 65 would be people tomorrow night are gonna be like, whoa, 65 pass attempts, and I'm sitting here saying there's no way.
Okay, so let me ask you this: would you take Mariota and then the Washington State receivers?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
I think there's always been more value in the Washington State receivers because they've kind of been unknown, so they've kind of stayed low in price.
Yeah, I mean, the highest priced guy is Melee, and he's at 13K, which isn't really that high.
And honestly, I don't know how much stock I would put in Melee.
Yeah, Myers has been just as good, if not better.
We can to touch on this. I think I'd rather go with like Myers and Craycraft because Oregon's got a really, really good corner, and he's probably going to be shadowing him all night. And Halliday is smart enough to know that he's got 3 other receivers that are good. Why would I force it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't touch Halliday at that price personally. I think if I don't get Mariota at 31, then I don't get either 30K quarterback. I just think it'd be dumb to sit here and say it's going to be some crazy high-scoring passing attempt like it will. I think Washington State gets beat around pretty bad.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then. Let's ignore Washington State. And what about Cal, Arizona? Like, the receivers for Cal could have a big day. I think.
Cal, Arizona is like the poor man's Washington State, Oregon.
Listen, you know what the over-under is on that game?
Probably 70.
It was 70.5. Like last I checked, it might have gone up. I don't know. But
yeah, I think I remember tweeting. I think I tweeted about that. It was one of 3 games in the 70s.
Yeah, 70. It's at 70 now.
I'm fully behind it. Fully behind this game. I think there's one player that's untouchable in this game, and the rest are going to be awesome.
I think Jared Goff's the play of the week.
Jared Goff at 17K is a great pick.
Yeah, like I would go Hedrick Goff. Like that's what I would
up on skill players.
On quarterback, my 2 quarterbacks would be Grant Hedrick and Jared Goff.
Dude, I love Anu Solomon this week.
I know, I like him too, but like at this price, think about it. Like Hedrick's only at 18 and Goff's at 17. I mean, you're saving a lot of money there with quarterbacks, and you can go load up.
Yeah, and I'm a big Hedrick. I'm starting to become more of a Hedrick fan. I was so into Hedrick last week, and then I realized they were playing like a 12 o'clock game, and he was coming from West Coast to East Coast.
Yeah.
And those are like the 2 things I look at really for quarterbacks that have always come back to bite me: noon games and guys that go West Coast to East Coast. I try to stay away from, so I ended up doing that.
He's been very good outside of the Ole Miss game, and really, he threw those 4 picks against Ole Miss, but he's still with 36 of 46 passing, which is 78% against Ole Miss.
He completed 40 passes.
He completed almost 40. Yeah, almost 40 passes. So
if you count the other teams, Zach.
Oh well, yeah. But they like to run him too. So yeah, I think this defense is going to stop him.
I think as we go like further into this slate, if we see guys that have a lot of underpriced studs in the 13, 14K range, I think that could force someone to be either A, really fine with getting left with Goff and Hedrick, or B, plan to have Hedrick and Goff as their 2 guys, because there's going to be, if there are guys in the 15 to 12K range, a bunch of them, that would probably be the way to go if you don't want to spend money.
I think what you could do in this, if you're drafting in this slate, I think you wait on your quarterback. Let them make the decision. Like, let them say, okay, I'm going to go Mariota. Then you say, okay, fine, I'll wait on my quarterback, because you can't possibly take another high-priced quarterback.
Yeah, you really can't.
So, like, if you let him take Mariota or Halliday, if he decides to take either one of those guys, you sit there and say, okay, I'll go get, Ajayi and Nick Wilson.
Okay, so really quickly to close off quarterbacks, Terrence Broadway, I don't think he's playable. Quinn Kaler, I mean, he's playable, but for 18K and the 2 quarterbacks around him, I wouldn't really do it.
Yeah, and their best receivers out for like 2 months. So
is that Ruffin?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Sean Mannion, he's not having as great a year as last year. He's still playing well. Just I can't see myself using it for 24K with the guys around him.
No, not. That's why I'm saying like I would go Goff and Hedrick, only because like their value is very good for amount of points they're going to put up.
Okay, so running backs. I want to talk the Arizona running back situation. I personally, unless we hear something different, like maybe Terrace Jones-Grigsby is starting, I don't think you can roster Terrace Jones-Grigsby.
No, I don't think so either. I think they love what they have in Nick Wilson.
I
Like,
think, yeah,
but
I just think you'd be crazy to sit Wilson or put him as the second guy after what he's done. Like, has he done anything but just dominate in these games that he's played?
and it's not like Cal's going to put up any resistance. That's the thing. Like, even if Grigsby does play, like both of these guys could go for 100+ yards and a touchdown easily.
Yeah, I mean that's why I think Wilson's the guy I have automatically, and it's not like I keep coming back to. It's the format is what makes Jones Grigsby a player you can't use. The fact that
Right.
it's a head-to-head doesn't allow you to do that. Other running backs, Jay Ajayi, bad game at UConn. I didn't see the game, but I can only assume that he's going to break out more at home. I think they killed ULF yet. Going West Coast to Boise is going to be tough for them.
Yeah.
And I mean, if they're going to score 35 points at home, he's going to have at least one touchdown and 20 touches.
Yeah. I was watching that game. It was weird for me watching Boise at like noon. But it looked like they got halfway through that game and said, you know what? Let's lighten up this load on Ajayi a little bit in a game that we really don't need to, push him. Because he's gotten a lot of touch. I think going into the game, he was leading the nation in touches
I believe it. Yeah.
as a running back. So I think they know that they don't have really another option. I mean, they have a couple guys, but nothing really that proven. And if they lose Ajayi, their season could be done.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think as good as the other players in Boise are, or on that team are, I think Ajayi is the guy that puts them on another level.
Yeah.
The running game.
I think, like you said, though, I think he does. They're back at home. I think that he has a good game this week.
fully behind his price. He's not a first pick to me,
Right.
but he's a guy where you establish your first 2-3 picks, maybe your 2 picks, and you say, "Yep, I'm gonna have room for Ajayi," or "No, I need to wait another pick," because I think he's going to be one of the top. With the guys that we've seen so far, I think he's going to be one of the top 7 picks. I think it's pretty safe.
And let me say this, too. If you're thinking about taking one of those Lafayette running backs, I don't know if I would, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Boise guy. Boise State's #2 in the nation in yards per game on the ground, behind Alabama.
And it's not going to get better in Boise. I'll tell you that.
So, right,
Yeah.
you're on the blue turf, they got some talent in the backfield over there, but nobody's been able to run on Boise. Even Ole Miss had trouble running on them. So, not that Ole Miss is a running team, but still, an SEC line should have been able to create
some gaps, some holes for these.
Right.
Honestly, they have some talented running backs. I mean, not as talented as these guys, but in grand scheme of things, offensive line, it's definitely better than theirs.
Right. So I would avoid them.
Caleb Jones is the receiver for Arizona.
Yeah, they've really. I'm gonna be honest. Like this, if you aren't taking advantage of some of these receivers playing running back, like Austin Hill was that week 1, he was a running back. Oh yeah, I took him week 1, and he won me my matchup that week. So in the tournament. So.
And in a PPR format, a guy like Caleb Jones at running back really can help you out.
Yeah.
I think would you say he's the #1 receiver for Arizona? Because I think he's got to be at this point, right?
Yeah, because I heard Samaje Grant's not going to play, as far as I know. Or he's doubtful, I think, is what they said. And Austin Hill, I don't know if he's hurt or he just didn't get the ball thrown his way much. He's only had 4 catches in the last 2 games for 26 yards. So, yeah, I think Caleb Jones, yeah, he's definitely
the guy to go to there. Take advantage of that. He's the receiver for Arizona, playing running back this weekend. San Diego State running backs, Pumphrey and what's the guy's name? Shoot, there's a second San Diego State running back, correct?
Price?
No, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of UL Lafayette. My bad. Donnell Pumphrey against Oregon State. What do you think his chances are to have a good game against Oregon State?
I mean, it's going to be pretty solid chances. I mean, I don't think Oregon State's really known for their defense. I mean,
Yeah, they're not going to have Azell Ruffin, so they're going to have to lean more towards Pumphrey. And he's a PPR guy as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, he's only got 6 catches this year as of now. So, what's he priced at? He's
$12K.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I would take him at $12K. I think there's a lot of better options in that price range.
Gotcha.
Like I would take, as like a flex, I would take Shane Williams-Rhodes at $11K before I took him.
Yeah, PPR format for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and Williams-Rhodes gets touches all. I mean, he carries the ball. He gets little screen passes. Punt returns. I mean, I don't know. Do we get points for punt return touchdowns?
You know what? To be honest, I feel like I should know this.
Like a touchdown is a touchdown, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty positive just a touchdown is a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, let's say he breaks one for a touchdown. There's another one. So I think at that price, I don't think I would take Pumphrey.
Okay, and then real quickly, the Oregon running backs, Byron Marshall's underpriced at 11.5.
Love him at 11.5.
Yeah, the fact that he catches, he's played, I guess, really played some receiver for them.
He's the slot receiver there, apparently.
Not to mention he gets carries.
Yeah.
You gotta like him. I like Royce Freeman's price at 6.7K.
Yeah.
That's a price I can jump on. He had a huge game one of the weeks and then an okay game. I think he could be in tune for a big game. Think about it. Against Washington State, they could go up big. They're not going to just sit on it and just not do anything. Freeman's going to get some carries there. And Tyner at 10K, not that sexy of a pick there. I think I'd rather have the other two.
I was thinking that, but then how I said, Derrick Henry, this might be his breakout week. I think this might be Tyner's breakout week as well. Because I think they've shown a want to get him the ball. I think last game he had double-digit carries, which doesn't sound like that's big of a deal. All 3 games he's had 11, 13, 11, and they've been been in the lead for most of those games. So and he does catch the ball too. It's tough because I think Marshall's the best play there. But for the price, I mean, you're not going to save much on Tyner anyway. Yeah, I think I like Marshall. Freeman, I like him too, but I wouldn't be shocked if Tyner does have a big game.
All right. And by the way...
Would you really be shocked if Tyner had a big game?
Not at all. I just think that your odds are better with the other two.
Yeah, I mean...
Freeman's less talented, but he's also, $4K cheaper.
Yeah. That's not a bad
one guy to mention here that could save you some money. Austin Hill is listed as a running back at 6K.
Yeah. There he is again.
He is a guy that is a low catch, high yardage guy. That offense, 70-point game. I think you could see a lot of points there.
Mm-hmm.
Moving to receivers, one guy I really like, your boy Matt Miller. Huge game last week against UConn. I think they've kind of realized that they need to continue to throw to him.
They should have done it against Ole Miss more.
Exactly. Newsflash, your star, tall receiver that can catch pretty much anything, that's the guy you should throw to more than the little fella. No offense, Shane Williams-Rhodes, but
yeah,
they need to be throwing Miller more than him.
He actually broke the school record for receptions last week.
What was that?
Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. I mean, he's consistently going to catch you between 6 and 8 balls a game, I would say.
Yeah. I think really he's the top. He really could be the top receiver point getter this slate. Looking at some other guys, we talked about Washington State really briefly to tell you what we did say. To recap, I like Mail or Maley, but just not as much with Oregon's defense. The way their star corner is, I think I'd rather go with some of these other guys. Myers at a better price, Craycraft. And then who's that other guy? Ricky Galvin at 6K is not a bad option there.
Dom Williams, I know he hasn't had really the amount of catches, but he only had 1 catch in the first game against Rutgers, but it went for 64 yards. And the other 2 games, he's had pretty solid games, so he may not be a bad play either.
Yeah, and one other guy to mention here at this low price, Kenny Lawler. Okay, 5.5K. He's the third receiver behind Harper and Treggs, but honestly, he's pretty much playing like a, a smaller number one right now. He's got like 3 or 4 touchdowns already. Limited numbers for catches, but he's made his most of it, and we've seen some of his highlight reel catches last year for touchdowns. At that price, I mean, you can fit in some high price quarterbacks
Yeah,
with some
they're
of these
going to
lower
throw the
guys we
ball around.
found.
That ball is going to be spread out in that game. I think you could take any of the Cal receivers and be okay. And like you said, Lawler, was it 5.5? I mean, that's
A really
not a bad move. Yeah, that's a good play.
Yeah, man.
Now, let me ask you this. I know we don't really talk tight ends much, but what about Oregon State's tight ends? You got Connor.
I mean, it would pending their price.
I mean, he's only at 6.4. I mean, it's not like you're going to break the bank to get him. And
I wouldn't mind him at all at 6K. And honestly, I'm not against tight ends. I was going to pick Eric Frohnpal or whatever, the guy from
Marshall.
But I just didn't get to him. Somebody actually, Head Chopper picked him before me, so I couldn't get him. But I think, if you're trying to get that stud, dud, kind of like high price, low price, he's a good option. I don't think he's better than Lawler or Freeman or Ricky Galvin.
Right.
Darren Carrington at 6.5K.
Here's what I'm thinking about Hamlet, though. I think you know what you're going to get out of him. I think he's consistently going to catch 4 or 5 balls a game. And he goes for big yardage with those catches, too. It's not like he's, catching little 4-yard, 5-yard routes.
He runs good routes. He runs legitimate, receiving routes, which is nice to see.
He could be kind of that play that you take him and everyone's like, he took Hamlet? And then they go look at him like, damn, he might actually have something there.
Yeah.
You might surprise the guy you're playing and taking that guy, and you may not be disappointed with him.
I think at worst case, you're fine with a nice little 4-catch, 40-yard day, maybe sneaking a touchdown there.
Yeah.
There should be some points in that game as well. Always is in Oregon State games, it feels like. Anyone else? Devon Allen at 8K is not a bad option.
No. It's tough to take Oregon receivers, though. They've burned me in the past, man.
Yeah, it is very tough to do that.
Josh Huff was the worst.
Yeah, Josh Huff was such a killer. He really was. I wouldn't take. I would rather. I mentioned Carrington and Devon Allen or Devin Allen. I think I'd rather have Chris Harper than those guys. I'd rather have Bryce Treggs than those guys.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Lawler, to name 3 Cal guys, Cal receivers. Ricky Galvin. Those are some options there. Nate Phillips, is he? I feel like I heard he was injured.
Phillips? Oh.
In the past, maybe? Is he fine?
I don't know. I haven't really.
Okay, so if you haven't heard anything, then we're good. For some reason, I feel like an Arizona receiver had a name. All right, so he's an option as well in the high-scoring game. Some guys there for you. I think there's plenty of.
What about Victor Bolden? We kind of just overlooked him. He's the 3rd-ranked receiver. I think he's going to get touches in this game. I mean, plenty of touches in this game.
I just haven't seen enough of Victor Bolden.
He caught 11 balls last week for 119 yards and a touchdown. Had 3 carries. Also,
who was that against?
At Hawaii.
At Hawaii, which is, by the way, if you've read my articles, you would know that's actually a tougher place to throw the football.
I mean, they only won by 8 points.
I would say, yeah. I mean, at 12K, then at that point you can look at him as a guy. I don't see Oregon State. They haven't reused Mulaney that much.
No.
I feel like he really has been a disappointment this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get behind Bolden. He gets 3 to 5 carries a game. I do know that. And if he gets to 11 catches like a Brandon Cooks type day,
that's 11 points.
Yeah, 12K. I mean, 12K, you can easily do that.
It's definitely something you got to.
Yeah, I think we.
But okay, let me ask you this: if you had the choice, and you said, "All right, I'm going to get one of these guys," who'd you get, Bolden or Williams Rhodes?
I'd rather go Bolden.
Okay.
And I know I said that I don't know a whole lot of him, but I'll tell you why. He's the number 1 option for Oregon State. Williams Rhodes really is the number 3 option for Boise State.
Yeah, fair.
And that would be it. I think Bolden and Williams Rhodes are pretty comparable players. The amount of touches they'll get, targets really.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather just have the number 1.
They're like the same type of player.
They really are. That's a very good question. A very good comparison. Very good question there. Last slate. Let's spend maybe about 15 minutes on this one. Not as sexy as the other two in terms of fantasy points, fantasy, value thrown around there. Mississippi State at LSU, Miami at Nebraska, Oklahoma at West Virginia, and Clemson at Florida State. Jameis Winston's price knocked down a little bit for the suspension, but not nearly enough to be usable, in my opinion, at $17K. The top quarterback on the board is Dak Prescott at $28K almost, then Tommy Armstrong at $25, and then Trevor Knight at $23, and Clint Trickett at $21. So which one of those 4 guys really are you targeting? Which one are you avoiding?
When I first looked at the slate, I'm sitting there, Tommy Armstrong. What in the world? And then because when I did a preseason ranking of my quarterbacks, before like back in April, I was doing it, and he made my list just because he was a returning starter. And then I was looking at it, I was like, he's not any good. Like, I don't even know why I put him on there. But looking at his numbers this year, he's played like a top 5 quarterback, fantasy-wise.
He also had a really easy matchup last week against Fresno.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get that, but is Miami really any better? They're terrible.
Yeah, that's true.
Lincoln. I mean, it's not like they're going to be going down into Miami and play them either.
It's true, and honestly, this is one of those situations where I typically like to see more than really other people should see. Like 90% of people will say, give me 2 games to figure out Tommy Armstrong. I'm like, I want 3 or 4 before I really jump into him in terms of using him. The thing that
jumped out to me is not his passing. He's only completed 53% of his passes. I mean, he's a home run. It's a all or nothing kind of guy. But his running has been solid. I mean, he's got over 200 yards rushing this year, almost 250.
He's like freaking Tyler Murphy right now going on. Unbelievable what they've been doing. So,
but, with that said, I don't think I would take him.
Well, thank you, Dak, for doing that. I agree. I'm avoiding Armstrong, and I'm avoiding. I don't think I can say I don't think I would say I'm avoiding Trickett. I'm not targeting Trickett, but I wouldn't avoid him. I think I'd let the chips fall and see where it goes. Dak Prescott, obviously, $28K against LSU, though. I'm not sure how I feel about that. What do you think about that matchup?
I don't like it. Not at $27K, almost $28K.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but I think the top quarterback play is Trevor Knight.
I wanted, when I was just talking there, I wanted to say, obviously fading Trevor Knight, and it puts against West Virginia. And C.J. Brown has looked bad this year in terms of completion percentage and just throwing the football yardage. And he had a big game against West Virginia last week. Yeah. Trevor Knight could certainly do that. He's probably the same type of quarterback, probably a little bit better thrower with more and better targets. Sterling Shepard's very good. So you would say Knight is the number 1 quarterback to look at in this slate?
I think that's where I'd go. And I'm gonna tell you who I would take as my second quarterback. If I were drafting here, I would take Deshaun Watson from Clemson at 5K as my second quarterback.
Yeah, I was just looking through some of these other guys. I don't think I can really. He gets a lot of snaps. Obviously, you can't use Jennings. I just don't. I can never buy into Jennings. Not at this point. Brad Kaya, no. Jameis Winston, no.
And because here's the thing on Winston, though. He's sitting out the first half. Let's say McGuire comes out and plays well. Do they pull him? I don't think
they have to pull him. You have to pull him.
I don't think you do. I don't think Jimbo Fisher will. I think if McGuire's playing well, he's thrown a couple touchdowns and he hasn't done anything wrong, I don't think he pulls him.
You don't think Jameis Winston plays if McGuire has 2 touchdowns?
I don't think he does. 200 yards. I think he's taken a lot of heat for only suspending him for half a game.
Yeah, and I thought two quarters was appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, personally, this is just my personal opinion. I know he's a public figure now because he's a Heisman Trophy winner, and you can't do that kind of thing. But if I were on campus and I heard a guy yelling what he yelled, I would be laughing hysterically. I'm sorry. Like, it would just be so randomly funny to me that I wouldn't think anything of it. But, again, when you're that person, you can't do that, especially what he's been through. You can't do that.
Yeah, with everything that's been behind him and
right, and I think the worst part about it was the whole I think what's going on in the NFL right now, like all these issues of domestic violence and stuff, all this stuff's going on, and he comes out saying this kind of thing. It was not very good timing, nor was it very smart anyway, like on his part.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Jameis Winston plays.
I think he'll play, too, because I don't think McGuire's going to play that well for him to say, no, we're just going to leave him out there. But I will say this. If McGuire does play well enough to where he's got like 250 yards, 2 or 3 touchdowns at halftime, and they're clicking, I don't think they put Winston in. I think Fisher takes the opportunity and says, no, you're going to sit down and watch him play. I think he does. I think Jimbo Fisher needs to, and I like Jameis Winston. I don't have anything against the guy. I just think Jimbo Fisher needs to just more of a stance like for the media almost. I know they're not supposed to do that, like play into the media, but like it would look good on Jimbo Fisher to do that.
Yeah. All right. So to go to receivers here, Kevin White's the number one target or number one price, number one ranked guy here. I love Kevin White. I wrote about him. I said he is going to be an actual real player you need to pay attention to this season. So far, he has not proved me wrong. But I think Rashad Green's the number one guy I'd want. I don't think McGuire hurts his value any because he's a safety blanket for him. And then when Jameis comes in, I mean, he's just going to rain terror on that defense at Clemson.
That's your opinion, huh?
Dude, Rashad Green got like 10 catches, 11 catches against Oklahoma State. No, I'm not saying they're.
I think he's the better player than White. I think White playing against Oklahoma. I mean, I know what he did to Alabama. I get it, but I think Oklahoma may pose a bigger threat this year.
Yeah, I'm not paying $19K for Kevin White. But it also makes you think, well, what are you going to do with all that money then that you saved by going to Deshaun Watson?
Right. No, I hear you there. I mean, I might go Abdullah and,
Carlos Williams. You got to go Carlos Williams with McGuire starting.
Yeah, that's where I'd go. I think I'd take those two, try to load up on running backs.
Which is odd because we have not said that yet at all tonight. And really, it's been a quarterback receiver slates, and then this is finally the one where it's like the side. Last one we had Ajayi, but really this is the one where it's been a lot of running backs that have been. This one's 2 stars right at the top for us. Sterling Shepard.
I like him a lot too, though.
Yeah,
I wasn't high on him, but like when I got lost in the final of my tournament to Trevor Knight and Sterling Shepard, I watched Sterling Shepard just rip through. I know it was Tulsa, but like he was on fire in that game. Yeah.
And West Virginia made Stefan Diggs. I mean, Stefan Diggs is a good receiver, a very good receiver. But you can't tell me that Sterling Shepard ain't close to him in terms of talent.
Yeah,
I think they're pretty comparable receivers at that point. Yeah. Other receivers, Mario Alford, can't really roll him against Oklahoma. If you're not liking Kevin White in general against Oklahoma, I don't think you can like Alford that much. One guy that's done very good for Nebraska, Jordan Westerkamp.
Yeah, and he caught a touchdown every week.
He caught a touchdown last week. I know that he didn't have a whole lot of catches. I think it was only like 2 or 3, but he had that touchdown. I'm a big fan of Westerkamp.
He's kind of like he's exactly the guy like Abradaris. The guy.
Oh my God! Oh my stereotypical white Big Ten receiver. I was just about to say Abradaris.
I mean, awesome. They replaced him with. I think it might be Abradaris that just changed his name.
Well, Abradaris transferred to Nebraska.
From Nebraska.
Yeah.
From Wisconsin to Nebraska.
From Wisconsin to Nebraska, so he could get another year and get drafted. I mean, Jordan Westerkamp, not going to win you any sexy trophies, but he could win you tomorrow's slate action. 11K. The receivers being semi-thin. I don't see a whole lot of guys jumping out at me. Westerkamp might be the way to go. You have to roster, what is it, at least two of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could go if you were to save money. If I were going, Deshaun Watson as my other quarterback at 5K. I'll say this too: Blake Bell as your other quarterback may not be a terrible option either. By the way, for Oklahoma, if you went Knight and Blake Bell as your quarterbacks, something to think about.
I think I'd rather just go Watson at that point.
You think so?
What's the upside to Bell? It's like a couple catches in a red zone touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, what if Watson, he's a freshman, comes in and plays Florida State's defense and he has negatives?
That is true.
Or he just doesn't play well and they yank him. Bell's gonna be there. I think it's the 5K. It's not that big of a risk when you're taking Deshaun Watson, I guess. But it's something to think about.
I think what I would say though is I just don't see enough upside with some of these other picks.
Yeah.
Like the higher priced options for receivers besides the couple of running backs.
Yeah.
To warrant going Bell. I think on a different slate where there's a lot of skilled flex players that are really sexy, I think you do that and you feel fine taking that risk with Blake Bell. That you do that, but I don't think you can tomorrow. I think you can with Watson, but not Bell.
And let me say this too, real quick. Keith Ford for Oklahoma is out. He has a fracture in his foot, so he's not playing. So Alex Ross should get more carries.
I'm on the Samaje Perine train, man.
Yeah, and he'll be the number 2, and they like to run 2 or 3 guys. So you could almost, if you were not going to save your money on quarterbacks, like say if you were going to go, for some reason you went Armstrong and Knight, you could take, Alex Ross and Perine.
And guarantee yourself 30 touches.
Yeah.
I mean, 40 touches almost. Honestly, I think Ross starts, and I think Perine gets the most carries.
Fair.
I don't doubt. Honestly, I think he gets the most important carries. I think he's the goal line back. I think he's like 5'11", 240, and honestly, Alex Ross is a big dude too. He's like 6'1", 225.
Right.
But 5'11", 240, man.
And they're both cheap. I mean, when you're looking at these other running backs on this slate, like those two guys might both get you, 100 yards and a touchdown. I mean,
yeah.
And that's not bad at those prices. And then you can say, okay, I'm going to get, the quarterbacks that I want, and then the receivers that I want.
It's the matchup that makes them able to pair them together. Because
right.
West Virginia is going to give up points. And you could roll all three. You could roll Knight, Perine, and Ross and be fine.
Yeah, I mean, the over-under is 65.
Here's an interesting play for you. I've kind of been on the Wendell Smallwood train a little bit just because he's a PPR back and he gets some carries. I don't know if he's like a Byron Marshall, like a broke man's Byron Marshall or what, but he seems to get plenty of catches. A pretty good amount of yardage for those catches, and 5 to 7 carries a game. Wendell Smallwood at 9K. Do you think that's a solid play there?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're gonna get 4 or 5 catches in a game, and that's what you're gonna get, it's hard to say no to that. I'm one of those guys that I would rather have a guy who's gonna catch, for sure targets, as opposed to a guy that, he may have a big game and then he's a boom or bust guy. I try to avoid those guys at all costs.
Okay, here's a question. This one's a risky one.
For example, real quick before you go there, like a Phillip Dorsett for Miami. Like, he's like a home run guy. He might catch you 2 balls the whole game and go for 90 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And the next week he catches 2 balls and goes for 12 yards. He's not gonna. It's not consistently good. But go on with your question. Sorry.
No, that was a good point about him. Mario Pender 5.3K against Clemson. He's only got 10 carries, which kind of scares me. But he's the clear number 2, in my opinion, behind Carlos Williams, who I think is a very good play with the whole situation looming around that quarterbacks and all that. Do you think Mario Pender at 5K is worthy?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a guy you could take a shot on. I mean, I don't like 5K is not. You're not when you take a 5K guy, like you're doing one of two things. You're either thinking this guy is the super play this week and he's way underpriced, or he could have a good game this week and it's not that big of a risk. Those are really the two scenarios you're looking at when you take a 5K guy. So, and I think he falls under the, he's only 5K. He's the number 2 running back, and they want to give him the ball a little more. Why not?
Yeah, and on a different slate, I think he's a great option. Not as great of an option with the fact that you're probably going to be trying to spend up money on those running backs.
Yeah, I mean you've got 3 elite running backs in this.
And you have Kenny Hilliard at 7.6K.
Yeah.
Starter for LSU. I wrote about how their situation is funny. All these different scenarios are coming up, and everything I've talked about in my couple of articles lately have come up here. LSU running back situation is not great for fantasy. Everybody gets spreads around with it. You have Hilliard, Fournette, and I think McGee, right?
Yeah.
Who's 5K, by the way. I wouldn't touch that one, but Hilliard at 7.6K is the starter. He's the guy that got 15 carries against Wisconsin. Fournette might be, gently being pushed into like a bigger role here, but it's still early on where I think that's a really good play for 7.
I would take Smallwood way before I'd take Fournette.
Yeah, Fournette right now is just not a guy I would feel very safe with.
Yeah.
Terrace McGee 5K. I think he would be the same kind of as a Pender. You know what? He's going to get probably more guaranteed touches than Pender, but I don't know if the explosiveness. I mean, if he gets 8 carries and Pender gets 5 carries, wouldn't you rather have Pender's explosive 5 carries than McGee's 8?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. Like you said, LSU, man, they want to. I think they want Fournette to be their number 1 running back so bad. Like they've been hyping him up so much that it's. I feel bad for him because he's never going to live up to that hype. I'm sorry.
See, I would feel bad for him except for the fact that he did the Heisman show. Heisman shows.
Yeah,
that to me, that's like, yeah, give me all that. Like he wants the hype.
He wants the hype, but like I guess I feel more like I feel bad more so because like more so for LSU. Like everybody's talked about him, like he's so good, and the media's talked about him being so good, and then even if he's a 15 carry, 100-yard guy, that's not Adrian Peterson or one of the best running backs ever.
Yeah, clearly, and honestly, it almost feels like Kenny Hilliard wants him to be the starter. Like what his comments on him, it's just ridiculous how everybody is like all over Fournette.
It's like they bow to him. It's like you understand he's a 19-year-old kid, right?
Yeah, that has a touchdown against Sam Houston State and
the Heisman pose.
Did the Heisman pose. Amir Abdullah, the clear number 1 running back in this slate. Carlos Williams, I think, is the number 2 clearly. Real quick, last guy we should talk about tonight before we're hopping off here, Duke Johnson. Unbelievable talent. He just hasn't really gotten it going ever since that injury. Do you think at 13K and against Nebraska, he's a good play with everything that we've talked about so far?
I don't necessarily like the price at 13K. If he were at like 10, I would take him. I know that doesn't seem like it's much, but he's clearly their best player. I don't think there's any question in that. And I haven't watched enough of Nebraska to know really how good they are. But I think I would take clearly those 2 guys in front of him before I would spend the money on those 2 guys before I'd take Duke Johnson.
All right, so
that's tough. He's a big play waiting to happen. Like any play he could take for 80 yards, and you wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, but I think you're right though. The fact that 10K looks a whole lot better than 13K, it really does seem like nothing. But That's the difference between Perrine and Duke Johnson right now, and we're all over our guy Perrine that we haven't really even seen a whole lot of. That just tells
Yeah.
you the difference between those two. I think we did a good job of covering all three slates, and honestly, this prime slate is not bad. I think it's a good slate. It's extremely different than the other two. I
It's
just think
very
the
thin
other,
at receiver, like you said.
yeah, I think the other two slates really are just that good. The AM and the PM. The PM, you get the late games, a ton of points on the West Coast, and then the AM, you get some good matchups. The Bama, Florida, the
Yeah.
ECU, UNC. The ECU UNC game should be a really, really fun one to watch. So we've talked about all these games for you. If you have any questions, obviously you can hit us up on Twitter. You see mine and Zach's @_CFF News _. Make sure to give him a follow if you have not already. I think it should be a fun slate, man. I wish I, maybe did head chopper or head to head in one of these slates because it seems like these are going to be a lot more entertaining. So, anyways, thankfully Andrew was not here to ruin the party. Hope you guys check out Fantasy Elite this weekend because this is one heck of a weekend to try it out. Let us know if you deposit over $50 and you're a member of Blue Dogs. Obviously, we're going to ship you over a shirt. Otherwise, we'll see you guys on next Wednesday. Talk about some Thursday football. I believe it's going to be another big game. It's like Arizona playing, I think, maybe, or UCLA.
Oh, UCLA plays Arizona State next Thursday.
There it is, yeah. So it should have some good fantasy potential in that slate as well. So make sure you guys hit us up on next Wednesday. We'll talk to you guys soon.